The sky cracked with fire as alien ships descended through the clouds. Villages burned behind their engines, their weapons sweeping across Earth like waves of death. People screamed. Families ran. Nothing made sense. The invaders didn't ask questions. They just came and destroyed. Aaron was a mechanic in the hills, far from the cities. He never thought the war would reach his quiet valley. But that night, the sky above his workshop turned red. His tools rattled. A shockwave shattered his windows. Something massive had crashed into the forest nearby. He grabbed what little he had, his flashlight, a small pistol, and a thick jacket, and ran toward the smoke. Trees had snapped like matchsticks. Metal pieces scattered through the dirt. At the center of it all, he saw something moving, not a machine. A person, her skin was blue. Not cold, lifeless blue, but glowing, pulsing like energy itself. Her long white hair was soaked in blood. Strange black lines, almost like tattoos, ran from her temples down her neck. She was breathing, barely, and she was staring at him. Aaron raised his gun, hands shaking. But the girl didn't attack. She didn't speak. She just looked at him. Eyes wide, glowing with something ancient and tired. Her lips trembled. Then she collapsed. He moved forward, checked her pulse. It was there, faint, but strong enough to fight. Against every instinct, he pulled her into his arms and carried her back to the workshop. She was heavier than she looked. Her armor was cracked and sparking. He didn't know if she was a soldier, or worse, a scout for a second attack, inside. He placed her on the work table. His tools were useless for this. Still, he patched what he could, wrapped her wounds, pulled out the shrapnel. As he worked, he noticed the scars, dozens of them, all carved into her skin with precision. Each line was deliberate, clean, too many to count. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. He didn't even know if she could understand him. But something about those scars haunted him. They weren't accidents. They weren't wounds from war. They were marks, rituals, warnings. Hours passed before she stirred. When she opened her eyes again, she spoke. Her voice was low, rough, and cracked. Her language was not his, but her pain was clear. She looked down at her own body, then back at him. She tried to sit up. He stopped her gently. "You're safe," Aaron said softly. "I don't know who you are, or what you were doing here, but I couldn't leave you to die out there." She stared at him. Then slowly she raised her arm. Her finger touched one of the scars on her shoulder. Her lips moved. One word, then another. The translator on her wrist blinked. Words formed. One life. One scar. One memory. Aaron's breath caught in his throat. She wasn't just a soldier. She was something more. A keeper. A witness. Every scar told a story of death. And he had saved her. Why? He didn't know yet. But he would find out. Aaron didn't sleep that night. He sat by the work table, watching the alien girl breathe. Her chest moved slowly, each rise and fall reminding him that she was alive. The forest outside had gone quiet, too quiet. He knew others would come looking for her. The girl's wounds were closing faster than expected. Whatever her biology was, it healed with strange speed. The glowing veins along her arms pulsed brighter now, like energy flowing through her. Aaron wiped his hands and stepped closer. He still had no name for her. At sunrise, her eyes opened again. She blinked slowly, then sat up with a sharp breath. She looked around the room, scanning for threats. Her gaze stopped on Aaron. He didn't move. She didn't speak. They just stared at each other, until finally, she placed a hand over her own chest. "Kelari," she said. He repeated it carefully. "Kelari," she nodded. Then her hand moved across the scars on her skin, stopping at one that ran over her ribs. She pressed it, her face turning sad. The translator on her wrist buzzed softly, then translated her words. "Taken. My first kill. I was 10 years old." Aaron didn't respond right away. What do you say to someone who carries a lifetime of death on her skin? He sat down across from her and leaned forward. Why do you mark them, the ones you've killed? He asked gently. Kelari paused. Then she replied, her voice low, so I never forget. Each life has weight. If I carry the memory, it stays with me. If I forget, I become like them. Aaron didn't ask who them was. He had a feeling he already knew. The ones who attacked Earth. The ones who set fire to entire cities. The ones who saw humans as insects. But Kelari wasn't like them. She had hesitated. She had suffered. She had survived. He got up and poured her some water. She took it slowly, holding the cup with both hands. Her fingers shook slightly. He noticed she had another mark on the back of her hand. A small star shape, cut in perfect precision. What's that one? Aaron asked. Kelari looked at it for a long time. Then she said, that one is mine, my own soul. Marked so I remember I still have one. Aaron felt a chill run through his body. He had never met anyone like her. Not just alien in form, but alien in pain. She had seen so much, done so much. And yet, here she was, sitting in his workshop, speaking with sorrow and not hatred. A sudden sound made them both freeze. Outside, a branch snapped, then another. Aaron grabbed his pistol and motioned for her to stay down. She reached for a small blade from her belt, weak but ready. The door shook once, twice. Then it creaked open slowly. It wasn't soldiers. It wasn't more aliens. It was a child. A human child, maybe 10 years old, covered in dirt and ash. He looked at Aaron, eyes wide, then at Kelari. The boy didn't scream. He just whispered, "Is she going to kill me?" Kelari lowered her blade. Aaron stepped forward. "No, she won't. She's not like the others." The boy nodded slowly, then burst into tears. Aaron rushed to him and held him close. The child's body trembled. Kelari watched silently, her expression unreadable. She looked down at her hand again, at the mark of her soul. After the boy calmed down, Aaron gave him water and food. Kelari helped without being asked. She cut the bread and handed it to the boy gently. The child looked up at her and smiled weakly. She returned it with the smallest curve of her lips. That night, the three of them sat together in silence. A fire crackled in the corner. Aaron couldn't stop looking at Kelari. Not because she was different, but because something inside her was changing. Slowly, painfully, but clearly. She carved a scar for each life taken. But Aaron was beginning to see something else. A piece of her trying to be more than a weapon. More than a soldier. More than a name on a kill list. And for the first time, he wondered if she could ever stop carving. Kelari woke before sunrise. The human boy was still asleep on a folded blanket near the corner. Aaron had fallen asleep in his chair, his head tilted, breath slow. She sat up slowly, her joints stiff but stronger than before. The scars on her arms itched. That always happened when her body was healing. She walked quietly toward the door and stepped outside. The air was cold, mist floated between the trees. For a moment, she felt peace, but peace always came before regret. She reached down and picked up a flat stone. With the tip of her finger, she traced another line on her shoulder. This one shallow, not a scar. Just a warning to herself. Aaron stirred and came outside, rubbing his eyes. He saw her standing alone. He said nothing at first. Then quietly, another. One? She nodded without turning. A life almost taken. I thought about it. I nearly did it. That boy. I almost struck him when the door opened. But you didn't. Irene replied. Kelari looked down at the faint line on her skin. But the thought still counts. That's how we were trained. No hesitation, but I hesitated. Twice now, Aaron. Stepped beside her. Good. That means you're changing. She didn't answer. Change was dangerous in her world. Change meant weakness. But weakness was what kept that boy alive. She hated it and welcomed it at the same time. Later that morning, Aaron began repairing one of the communication panels salvaged from the wreckage. Kalari watched him work, fascinated. The tools were primitive to her, but his hands were steady. He hummed a quiet tune as he connected wires. It was the first sound of peace she had heard in weeks. "What is that?" she asked. "Just an old Earth song. Something my mother used to hum when fixing things. Makes the silence feel less heavy. I like it," Kalari said. The boy helped by handing Aaron tools. Kalari didn't say much, but she stayed near. When a low beep confirmed the signal panel was working, Aaron smiled. "I might be able to get a transmission out. Maybe contact any survivors, if they're still out there." Kalari's expression shifted. "You want to bring others here?" "Not soldiers, just people. Refugees, maybe. Families." Kalari looked at the door. "If they see me, they'll shoot." "Without asking." "I won't let them," Aaron said firmly. She didn't argue. But her hand drifted to her scars again. One ran across her collarbone, thin and sharp. It was the scar of her first commander. The one she had killed with her own blade when he gave the order to destroy a surrendering outpost. That scar never faded. That evening, distant sounds echoed through the trees. A low whine, mechanical. Aaron ran outside and scanned the skies. In the distance, small ships cut through the clouds. Not large enough for full assault. "Couts," Kalari came beside him. "They're looking for me. Or finishing the job. We have to hide," Aaron said. She shook her head. "No, if they see heat signatures, they'll target the area anyway. We need to move, tonight." They packed quickly. Kalari led them through forest paths, her memory guiding them around sensors and listening posts. The boy stayed quiet, holding Aaron's hand. They walked for hours, until they reached an old human bunker hidden beneath the roots of a fallen tree. Inside, the place smelled of rust and silence, but it was safe. Aaron checked the systems. No power, no signals, just a place to rest. Kalari sat on the cold floor and removed part of her armor. Her shoulder bled again from the climb. Aaron knelt and cleaned the wound. As he wiped the blood away, his eyes followed the scars across her skin. They were not random. They were stories, some curved, some jagged. One formed a perfect spiral across her stomach. Each one had meaning, she noticed in looking. "You can ask." "Everyone does eventually." He met her eyes. "Tell me about the spiral." Kalari looked down. "That one was the last battle before I changed sides. We were ordered to wipe out a colony, not soldiers, just scientists." I hesitated. My partner did not. When it was over, I carved that one in silence, and walked away. Aaron nodded. He reached out and gently placed his hand over the spiral. Her skin flinched, but she didn't pull away. His voice was quiet. "You're still beautiful." Kalari blinked fast. She didn't understand how he could say that, but she believed him. Not because of his words, but because he touched her. Like she was still whole. For the first time, she didn't feel like a weapon. The bunker walls groaned under the weight of old age and soil. Pipes leaked slowly into the silence. Kalari sat on a crate, sharpening her blade. Aaron worked on fixing an old generator. The boys slept wrapped in a blanket beside a broken heater. No one spoke for a long while. Kalari's hands moved slowly over the metal. She didn't need the blade ready, but the rhythm kept her thoughts quiet. She had been silent for too long. Finally she said, "I wasn't always a killer. I was a student once. I believed in unity." Aaron looked up from the wires. "What changed? My world died, one by one. The cities burned. Not by war, but by order. The weak were left behind." We were told to purge emotions. Replace them with loyalty. He set the wires down and walked over. So they trained you. To forget who you were. She nodded. Until the scars reminded me. Aaron sat beside her. You still remember every face? Not the faces, she said. The moments. The way they screamed. The way they didn't. The ones who looked me in the eyes before I ended them. Those are the ones I dream about. He didn't speak. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small folded paper. He opened it and handed it to her. A drawing, simple lines. 3 people standing under a tree. The middle figure was clearly him. The 2 others were unknown. My sister and I used to draw before the war. That was her, Aaron said, pointing to the girl in the drawing. Kalari ran her fingers over the image. Where is she now? She was taken during the first strike. I still don't know if she's alive or Ash. But I keep this with me, so I don't forget I had something to lose. Kalari handed it back slowly. You still carry love. Aaron folded it and tucked it away. So do you. That's why you mark your pain. You don't want to forget the weight of it. Outside, the storm grew louder. Lightning flashed through the cracks of the ceiling. Kalari stood and walked to the door. She stared into the dark trees. Aaron followed her gaze. There were figures moving beyond the fog. Shapes too fast and too silent to be animals. They found us, Kalari whispered. Aaron reached for his pistol. Can we fight them? We can't fight them all, but we can outsmart them, she replied. She moved fast, waking the boy and preparing supplies. Aaron dragged metal shelves against the door. Kalari opened a hatch beneath the floor. Old escape tunnels. Cracked but still usable. She handed the boy a small light and helped him climb down. As Aaron moved to follow, she grabbed his arm. I'll stay. You guide the boy. I'll lead them away. No, Aaron said sharply. We don't split. Not now, she looked at him with steel in her eyes. This is what I was made for. I know how they think. I can buy you time. He held her arm. You're not a tool anymore. You're not alone. We move together or we don't move at all. She stared at him. For the first time, someone refused to leave her behind. She swallowed hard and nodded once. Then they dropped into the tunnel, sealed the hatch and moved quickly. The tunnel air was cold and damp. Roots broke through the ceiling. Each step echoed. They moved in silence. The boy held Kalari's hand. She didn't let go. After nearly an hour, they emerged into an abandoned structure built into the side of a cliff. It overlooked the valley. Fires still burned in the distance. Kalari climbed to the edge and scanned the horizon. This place was a command post once. We might find weapons. Aaron checked the old crates and smiled. Inside were supplies, some damaged, some intact. Enough to last days. Maybe more. The boy sat near a corner and ate quietly. Kalari sat beside him, her blade still in her lap. Aaron approached and placed a hand gently on her shoulder. I know you think you're marked by what you've done, but scars fade. And people change. She looked down at her arms. The scars still glowed faintly in the dark, each one a reminder of death. But the warmth of the boy's hand and the calm in Aaron's voice gave her something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The command post was silent except for the wind howling across the valley. Dust moved through the cracks in the walls. Rusted metal groaned under its own weight. Kalari checked the perimeter while Aaron searched the shelves for anything useful. The boy sat by a broken monitor, scribbling pictures in the dirt with his finger. Kalari returned from her sweep. No movement yet, but they will come. They always come, Aaron nodded. We'll be ready. This place gives us height. They won't expect resistance from up here. She walked to a console and tapped it. The screen flickered faintly. Old maps glowed in green. She turned to Aaron. There's a signal station marked nearby. If we reach it, we can send a stronger message. Maybe even reach other worlds. Aaron leaned in, eyes scanning the screen. But if we light it up, won't that draw them straight to us? Kalari answered without hesitation. Yes, but it might also bring help. He looked at her carefully. Are you hoping for help from your side? Or mine? Kalari's face did not change. I don't know anymore. They spent the next hour preparing defenses, tripwires, makeshift explosives, sharp traps along the steps. Kalari moved like a shadow, placing each piece with precision. Aaron followed, reinforcing doors and guiding the boy on what to do if they were separated. Later, they sat around a small fire inside a cracked chamber. The boy slept again, curled between a pack of blankets. Aaron tossed a small stone toward the flame. You still haven't told me who taught you to fight like that. Kalari stared into the fire. My mother. She was a general, cold, brilliant. She raised me for war. I was speaking battle commands before I could count. She died during a mission I led. My orders. My fault. Aaron didn't respond. He simply passed her a canteen of water. She drank slowly, the firelight dancing across her scars. Her hand paused. On one that crossed her ribs, long, deep. Different from the others, he asked. That one looks different. She touched it gently. That's the one I carved when I realized I didn't want to be like her. When I chose to run. Aaron leaned forward, watching her carefully. Running isn't weakness. Not when it's towards something better. Kalari's eyes glowed slightly in the firelight. Then what are you running from? He hesitated, then said, Guilt. I wasn't there when my family died. I survived by accident. I've been trying to earn that second chance every day since. She reached out and touched his hand. Not a warrior's grip. Not a move of control. Just connection. The silence between them was soft. Not empty. Not heavy. Just full of things they both understood. Suddenly, a faint noise echoed down the corridor. Metal scraping. A stone shifting. Kalari was on her feet in seconds. Aaron grabbed his weapon and moved to the edge. The boy stirred but did not wake. Kalari signaled. One finger up, two down. It meant 3 scouts, she whispered. Advance pattern. They're probing the area. If they find the traps, they'll change formation. Aaron breathed in slowly. We let the first trap trigger. Then we hit them hard while they regroup. She nodded. They moved together in silence, like two halves of the same thought. At the stairwell, Aaron waited, eyes locked on the shadows. Kalari stood above, blade drawn, every muscle ready. A loud snap echoed. The trap triggered. Screams followed as 2 of the scouts hit the wires. Aaron fired once. Kalari dropped down like lightning, blade flashing. The 3rd scout never saw her coming. When it was over, 3 bodies lay broken near the edge of the stairs. Aaron checked their gear. Same armor as the crash site. Same markings. Kalari took one of their units. Base sent low rank, testing for survivors. We passed their test. Now they'll send hunters. They burned the bodies before sunrise, not out of cruelty, but because the hunters would use scent to track. Kalari watched the flames without blinking. Aaron stood beside her, arms folded. Neither spoke until the fire burned low. Kalari whispered, More scars. More names I'll never know. Aaron placed his hand on her back, just below her shoulder. Then we'll fight for the ones still breathing. For the first time, Kalari closed her eyes, not in pain, but in quiet acceptance. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But tonight, she was not alone. The sun rose slowly over the Fazi ridge, painting the broken command post in golden light. Kalari stood at the cliff's edge, her body still and alert. Below in the valley, faint movements stirred through the smoke. She watched silently, counting the shapes, measuring their pattern. They're regrouping, she said as Aaron joined her. He stared through his binoculars. Larger group, heavier armor, They're not scouts. They're coming to finish what they started. Kalari turned away from the edge. Then we leave now. If we wait, we'll be trapped between the rocks and their fire. Aaron nodded. I packed the last of the food and water. We can move by the canyon path. It's narrow, but it'll slow them down. The boy walked up, rubbing his eyes. Kalari placed a hand on his head gently. Time to be strong again, she whispered. They moved quickly, slipping through narrow paths cut into the stone. Kalari led the way, her blade ready. Aaron followed with the boy close behind. The wind grew stronger as they climbed higher, pushing dust into their faces. After 2 hours, they reached a narrow ridge overlooking the abandoned signal station. The tower stood tall but damaged. Panels were missing. One of the dishes was cracked, but the power source glowed faintly under the rubble. Kalari dropped to one knee and scanned the area. No motion, no heat signatures. It's safe for now. They entered the station carefully. Inside, the walls were scorched from past fights. Old bloodstains painted the floor. Aaron moved to the console and opened a panel. Wires sparked to life. The screen flickered. I can boost a pulse message. It'll be short. One signal burst. We can reach someone if they're listening. Kalari stood by the door, guarding the entrance. Then send it, but be ready to run. That signal is a beacon. For both friend and enemy. Aaron worked fast, fingers moving with practiced skill. The console beeped. A green light blinked. Signal ready, one shot only. Kalari stepped closer. Send it to Earth Command. And to this frequency, she saw it, handing him a small card from her armor. Aaron raised an eyebrow. What's this? An old friend. Not from my side. Not from yours. But they owe me a favor. Aaron typed in the frequency and hit transmit. The console flashed once. The pulse was sent. Then the power died with a soft whine. They waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Nothing came. Kalari began pacing. Aaron checked his weapon. The boy sat quietly, hugging his knees. Then a soft hum broke the silence. A message reply lit the screen. Receiver confirmed. Extraction in progress. Location locked. Aaron exhaled with relief. Someone's coming. I don't know who, but someone's coming. Kalari walked to the window. The sky was still clear, but her voice was cautious. They'll come too, the enemy. If they trace that signal, they'll arrive before help does. Aaron knew she was right. We hold the station. We protect the boy. No matter what, they began setting up defenses. Barricades from broken panels, traps at the door. Kalari prepared 3 charges from old power cells. She handed one to Aaron. If they breach, collapse the north side. We funnel them through the choke point. He took it without question. She nodded once. No more words were needed. The first shot came at dusk. A plasma round shattered a window. Kalari fired back instantly, dropping the shooter. More shadows moved through the ruins outside. The battle had begun. Aaron covered the left flank. Kalari moved like a ghost, cutting down anyone who got too close. The boy hid under the console, eyes shut tight. The room shook with each explosion. The floor cracked. Smoke filled the air. An enemy soldier crashed through the doorway. Kalari tackled him mid-air, blade sinking deep. She rolled and kicked his weapon away. Aaron fired twice more into the hall. Then silence returned. Kalari stood, bleeding from her side. She didn't stop. She couldn't. Aaron helped her back toward cover. You're hit. She pressed a cloth to the wound. It's not deep. Just another line on the body. He pulled her closer, looking into her eyes. You've earned more than lines. You've earned peace. She smiled weakly. Peace is something I no longer fear. Outside, a new sound filled the air. A deep, mechanical hum. Then a bright light burst. Through the clouds, a ship descended, its hull marked with no flag. It hovered above the ruins, weapons pointed outward. A voice echoed through the speaker. "Hold position. Extraction secured." Aaron lifted the boy and waved. Kalari stood tall despite the pain. As the ship lowered, she looked back at the bodies. At the blood. At the ground soaked in silence she would never forget. The ship touched down slowly, its engines blowing dust and smoke in every direction. Kalari stood in front of the boy, shielding him without thinking. Aaron kept his weapon low but ready. They didn't know who was inside, only that someone had answered the call. The ramp opened with a heavy hiss. Two figures stepped out, both wearing armor unlike any Kalari had seen before. Not human, not fully alien, a mix of designs. One tall and masked. The other smaller, with soft blue skin and glowing gold eyes. The smaller one stepped forward and removed their helmet. "Kalari," the figure said in a calm voice. "You look worse than usual." Kalari's grip on her blade relaxed. "Siren, you still fly without a flag." "Flags mean alliances," Siren replied, "and alliances mean orders. I prefer free decisions." Aaron stepped forward cautiously. "Who is this?" Kalari didn't turn. "An exile, like me. She saved my life once. I saved hers later. Now we're even." Siren looked at Aaron, then at the boy. "You brought civilians. That's not like you." "Everything is not like me now," Kalari answered. Siren nodded slowly. "Then it's true. The warrior who carved scars now shields children. I never thought I'd see it." Kalari's voice was steady. "I did more than shield, I spared. I remembered. I chose." Siren stepped closer, eyes narrowed. "Then you've broken your program. They'll never take you back." "I don't want to go back," Kalari said. Siren raised a hand toward the ship. "We're heading to the rim. Border zones. There are safe colonies. You'll be out of range. You can start again." Aaron looked at Kalari. "Is that what you want?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved across the battlefield. The traps, the blood. The boy's frightened eyes. Then she turned to Aaron and said, "I want to stop counting scars." Siren motioned toward the ramp. "We leave in 5 minutes. Decide by then." They walked away, giving space. Kalari sat on a rock and stared at her own hands. Blood, dust, faint glowing lines beneath the skin. Aaron sat beside her without speaking. The boy leaned against her shoulder. She didn't move. Aaron finally spoke. "You're not what you were, and you're not what they made you. You're what you choose to become now." Kalari looked at him. "I'm still marked. I still see them all when I close my eyes." Aaron reached out and gently traced one of the longer scars across her shoulder. "But now someone sees more than those scars." She turned toward him slowly. Her voice was soft. Even with all this, he met her gaze. "You're still beautiful." She didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She just leaned her forehead against his and let the silence fill the space between them. Then she stood and walked to the ship. Siren watched her carefully. "You've changed. You used to walk like a weapon. Now you walk like a person." Kalari didn't reply. She held out her hand to the boy. He took it and smiled. Then she turned to Aaron and nodded. They boarded. Together, inside, the ship was quiet. No soldiers, no banners. Just refugees, a few humans, a few aliens. All marked by survival. All trying to start over. Kalari found a seat near the viewing panel. As the engines roared and the station shrank below them, she took a blade from her belt. Slowly, she carved a line near her palm. Not deep, not sharp. Just enough, Aaron noticed. "Another scar?" She shook her head. "No, a memory. But not of death. Of choice." He took her hand and held it gently. For the first time since her training began, Kalari didn't feel like a soldier. She felt like something entirely new. Asterisk. The IOE didn't feel like a soldier. She felt like something entirely new. The stars outside the window moved slowly as the ship passed into deep space. Inside, everything was quiet. The engines hummed gently, steady like a heartbeat. Kalari sat alone, her hand resting on the fresh mark she had carved. But it was not a scar of pain. It was one of change. Aaron entered the room carrying 2 cups. He handed one to her and sat beside her. They didn't speak at first. The silence between them no longer felt like a wall. It felt like a path that needed no words. The boy had fallen asleep near the navigation panel, curled up with a blanket. Siren stood at the control bay, speaking quietly with one of the other pilots. Kalari looked over at her old friend, then turned her eyes back to the stars. "Where are we going now?" Aaron asked. Kalari took a breath. "There's a colony near the edge. It's not much, just fields and mountains. No war, no banners. Just people trying to live." Aaron smiled softly. "That sounds like the kind of place we both need." Kalari leaned back, her shoulders finally starting to relax. Her body still ached, but not from wounds, from release. From dropping the weight she had carried for too long. She looked at her arm, at the scars, the ones carved in anger, in guilt. In memory, they were still there. But they no longer burned. Aaron placed his hand over hers. "When we land, what will you tell the people you meet?" "I'll tell them I was a soldier who forgot how to feel," she answered. "Then I met a boy who was scared and a man who refused to see a monster." Aaron squeezed her hand. "And I'll tell them I met a woman who carried the weight of her past and still chose to protect others." Kalari didn't smile, but her eyes softened. That was enough. Later that day, the ship entered orbit over a green world covered in fog and trees. The sun was pale blue. The mountains tall and quiet. No towers, no weapons, no patrols. Just untouched land and the sound of a new beginning. Siren walked up behind them. "This is your stop. Coordinates are set. 1 hour to descent." Kalari stood slowly. "Will you stay?" Siren shook her head. "No, I'll keep moving. Too many ghosts still follow me." "You don't have to run forever," Kalari said. Siren smiled faintly. "Neither do you. That's why I brought you here." They embraced once, short, strong. Then, Siren turned away and vanished into the upper level. The ship landed near a hillside. A small shelter had already been built nearby. It looked old but sturdy. Kalari helped the boy down the ramp. Aaron followed, carrying the supplies. The air was cold, but clean. A quiet breeze moved the grass. Kalari walked to the edge of the field and knelt. She touched the soil. It was real, not metal. Not ash. Real. They spent the next few days settling in. Aaron fixed the roof. Kalari reinforced the doors. The boy collected stones and made small towers in the yard. Each day brought silence. Not emptiness. Peace. One morning, Kalari sat on the porch, sharpening her blade, not for battle, just for habit. Aaron joined her with 2 cups of water. He pointed to her arm. "Do you still carve them?" She looked down. "Not like before. I stopped carving for death. Now I mark moments worth remembering." He tilted his head. "And how many new ones have you made?" She turned her arm slightly. Near her wrist, a faint symbol had been carved. A small circle inside a triangle. Aaron reached out and touched it. "What does it mean?" "It means I chose life," she replied. He smiled. "And what about that one?" he asked, pointing. Near her collar. "That one's for you," she said. Aaron froze for a second, then laughed quietly. "I didn't think I was deadly enough to earn a scar." Kalari leaned closer. "You weren't deadly. You were different. That's what left a mark." They sat together as the sun rose over the hills. No alarms. No commands, no targets. Only open sky and quiet air. The past still lived inside her, but it no longer ruled her. The scars were still there, But now they were only part of the story.